Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to my 2020 reading goals wrap-up video and my 2021 reading goals plan video, such as it is. So I had, I think, three primary reading goals in 2020. Kind of hard to remember back to January of 2020. You know, some stuff's happened between then and now, but I think I had three. One was to do a better job of reading books that met the Reading Women's Challenge, which is created by the Reading Women and their podcasts, and Kendra Winchester and the other people that are part of that Reading Women podcast. Anyway, every year they create a list of challenges, and last year I tried to actually pay more attention to it and to pick books that fit on the list, but also just to see what books I was already reading that were on the list, because you know, one of my goals in reading since I've joined BookTube is to read more diversely in terms of content and authors, and even to a certain extent genre, which is kind of another one of my goals, which was to read more genre fiction. I'm not really going to go into that because I think I talked about that relatively recently. I read a horror novel, World War Z. I read a romance novel whose name I can't remember, which probably tells you something about the impact that it had on me. I read science fiction, two science fiction novels, which will be in the books I discuss today. I read a YA novel, which was, Searching for Alaska, I believe, a John Green book. I read a fantasy novel. This was something I was going to read anyway, but I read the last two books in the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. That was a buddy read I did with Lukas from Cruel Reader's Thesis. So I had that as one of my goals, and then I also wanted to participate in the Read More German Lit, kind of challenge created by Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures and Britta Bohler. Welcome back to BookTube, by the way, Mel. It's great to have you back. And then also, I forgot the fourth one, was I was going to do a short story a month. Just kind of created a short story project where I was going to cover one short story by a classic American author and do that each month. And by the way, I did that, and if I don't have a playlist down below already, I will shortly, of all those videos. So those are kind of my reading goals. So to kind of deal with them, with the two I haven't talked about yet, let me deal with the least successful one first, and that was the Read More German Lit goal, or Read More German Books goal. As far as I know and can remember, because I don't keep track of these things very well, I read three books that were written in German. The first was The Emigrants by W.G. Sebald, who I think I've gushed about enough. This book made my top 10 or my 10 favorite books of the year list video because I just love W.G. Sebald's writing. The second book I read last year that was written in German was Visitation by Jenny Erpenbeck. This is about a book. This is about a home that is built kind of in a rural section of Germany, and how it changes as people move in and ownership changes, and it kind of takes that home and that location across German history. And I'll be honest with you, when I read it, I thought it was okay. The longer I think about it and the longer removed I am from reading it, the more I realize that images and ideas from the book have stuck with me. So it's probably a good deal better than I thought it was when I first reviewed it. And then just right here at the end of 2020, I read Lost in Math by Sabine Hossenfelder, who is a German scientist, a German physicist, who wrote this book about how physics is getting lost in kind of the concepts of mathematical beauty and naturalness, etc., which was really good. This is a buddy read I did with Patrice Jones. So I think those are the only three books that I read that met the Read More German Books Challenge. I have to be honest with you, I think that's two more German books than I read last year, so I guess technically, I succeeded, but I don't feel like I did. I think I did a better job with the Reading Women Challenge. And again, let me encourage you, if you are trying to read more diversely, this is a great place to start, because the challenge not only contains books and prompts and challenges to get you to read books by a more diverse group of women, but also by non-binary and trans authors and works in translation. It really is good, I think, for creating diversity. So I'll put the picture of the reading challenge list over here, and I'm just going to go through the ones that I did. I have to look on my phone to make sure I know. So I met challenge number 2, which is to read a work that was translated from an Asian language. I'm not exactly sure this qualifies, but I'm going to go ahead and give myself credit for House on Endless Waters, which is also my top 10 books of 2020, which is translated from Hebrew. And I believe that qualifies as a language which exists on the continent of Asia, even though I'm not exactly sure that was the intent of the prompt, but I really like this book, and that met that challenge. Prompt number 6 was to read a nonfiction by a woman historian. I'm going to say that because Dr. Carol Anderson cited history and used history as kind of the basis for this book, White Rage, that this qualified as a work of history, a work of nonfiction by a woman historian. This is a really powerful book looking at racism, institutionalized racism, and the reaction that the white community in the United States has every time there is success by African Americans. I would just point out the racial component to what we see happening in the United States today is proof that the thesis of White Rage is correct. This was also my top 10 books last year. Let's see, also met prompt number 7, which was to read a work of Afrofuturism. And I read Kindred by Octavia Butler. She is one of the OGs of Afrofuturism, I believe. This is a great book. Narrowly missed my top 10 and my list of honorable mentions, but a great book, and that met the qualification for challenge number 7. Challenge number 11 was read and watch a book-to-movie adaptation. Okay, I don't have the physical book because I listened to the audiobook of Sense and Sensibility, and I watched 2 different adaptations of Sense and Sensibility. The one which was directed by Ang Lee, starring Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet, which probably explains why I watched it, even though I'd already also watched the miniseries version, which in some ways is probably better. It definitely goes into more depth, but, Kate Winslet. Anyway, so that was prompt number 11. I met the qualifications for prompt or challenge number 13 to read a book by an Arab woman. I read Minor Detail by Adania Shibli, which was a really powerful and I thought effective book about Arab women in relationship with the state of Israel, part set in the past, part set more in the near future. Kind of 2 stories which in lots of ways parallel and kind of have the same, a very similar outcome and very similar location. I also thought that I met the qualifications for 15, a biography. I read, and I've mentioned this book before, it was in my honorable mention. It seems like I've only read like 15 books now that I'm talking about it, but You Never Forget Your First, a biography of George Washington by Alexis Coe, who is an historian and an author. It's kind of an irreverent look at Washington and the Washington biography industry at the same time, and I really liked it. Let's see, prompt number 16 was a book that I read because of the BookTube Prize judging that I did. By the way, that's another good way to diversify your reading, is to participate in the BookTube Prize. That book was The Collected Schizophrenias by Esme Weijun Wang. This book kind of deals with, she deals with her own struggles with schizophrenia and institutionalization and things like that. And I didn't think this book was particularly effective. I don't think I voted for it to move on in the BookTube Prize, but it does qualify for this prompt, it qualifies for the prompt I picked it on, and that is 16, a book featuring a woman with a disability. The author has a disability because she does suffer from schizophrenia. Then I cheated on this one, but I'm going to go ahead and count it anyway. Also prompt 17, a book that's over 500 pages. This is my copy of Jane Eyre, which I read this year for Victober, and I thoroughly enjoyed and loved, and in my version it comes out to 493 pages. I'm still counting it. I guess you can, kick me off the list if you want to. Prompt 18 then, a book under 100 pages. This is a book of short stories which comes in at, 70 pages, 13 Months of Sunrise by Layla Abulela. I think that's how you say her last name. I really liked some of the stories in this. I thought some were really effective. I thought some weren't, but it definitely is less than 100 pages. Also then, I think I qualified for prompt number, oh sorry, that was 18. Yeah, challenge 18 was a book under 100 pages. Also, I think I qualified for challenge 19, a book frequently recommended to you. Now, this is actually an author frequently recommended to me as a part of my effort to read science fiction and read more genre fiction. Ursula K. Le Guin has oftentimes been recommended to me, and knowing that, I thought I could, qualify, read a book that would be qualified to meet one of the challenges on the list, and also my goal of reading more genre fiction. So I read The Lathe of Heaven, which I thought was okay. I have to admit, this did not convince me to become a science fiction reader. Then let's see, prompt number 23 is to read a book by an LGBTQ plus author, and that book was Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. Gailey, I believe, identifies as non-binary. So they have written a number of books that I like. The Hippo Duology were the first books that they wrote that I really liked a lot. This book I didn't like as much, but it does qualify for the prompt. And then prompt 24, a book from the 2019 Reading Women's Awards shortlist. And if I checked correctly, then Cantoras by Carolina de Robertis is on that list, and I read this as well. This is another one of those books which has been improving. Sorry, my books are about to fall over. Which has been improving in my mind since I read it. But I do think it was good. I definitely think it deserved a place on that list. And it was a really interesting story. It's one of those kind of novels where I don't only get invested in the characters and what's happening to them, but also kind of in the history that is depicted in that book as well. And then the kind of bonus challenges were to read a book by Toni Morrison or by Isabel Allende. I didn't read any books by Isabel Allende, but I read seven novels by Toni Morrison. Let me see if I got it right. The Bluest Eyes, Sula, Tar Baby, Beloved, Song of Solomon, Jazz, and Love. Yes, I read those 7 novels by Toni Morrison, so that should get me some bonus points. This is also because I joined in a group which was attempting to read all of Toni Morrison's 11 novels in 2020. I don't think that worked out for anybody. It didn't work out for me. I read 7. I didn't go back and reread Paradise because it is a challenging read, and I just couldn't face that in August with other things going on. But I do plan to get to the other 3 of Toni Morrison's novels this year, hopefully getting to one, at least one in February. So there you go. Those are my goals and where I stood with my goals from 2020. So on to my 2021 goals. I am judging BookTube Prize again, so that's not necessarily a goal, but it does help me kind of achieve that idea of more diversity in my reading. So I'm going to read another science fiction novel. I'm going to read, let's see, another horror novel. By the way, I read detective fiction last year, but that shouldn't count for me because I read that stuff all the time anyway. So I'm going to try to keep doing that. Also, I am going to try to pay even more attention to the Reading Women Challenge for 2021. I'll put that little screenshot of their list up here on the right-hand side, or right here, sorry. It's on your left-hand side. On my right-hand side, I think a couple of books I've already read this year kind of qualifying. I feel already like I'm accomplishing that goal of reading more books than Reading Women Challenge. And then the other goal I've set for myself is to read 1 book a month that has been on my shelf for a period of time that's so long I can't remember when I got it. So this month, because I already kind of loaded myself with a lot of reading, I'm reading a relatively short work. That's The Body Artist by Don DeLillo. DeLillo is an author that I have admired and liked. Many of his works, I think Underworld was one of the great American novels of the later part of the 20th century. I'm sure many people would disagree with me, but I'm going to read that. So every month I'm going to pick 1 book off my shelf. The list is evolving, but a book I've had on my shelf that's been there for multiple years that I've never read, and I'm going to start whittling down the number of books on my shelf back there that I've had for a long time that I've never read. So that's my other goal. So that should be at least 12 of those kind of books off my shelf. All right, so in addition to read-alongs and occasional readathons and monthly inspired reading like Black History Month and March of the Mammoths, I host Faulkner in August. Those kind of things will be going on too, but those are basically my goals, and I tried to keep it simple this year because what last year told me is, the best laid plans well, since I can't remember the end of the quote, the best laid plans don't always work out. And that's where I ended up. Anyway, let me know what you think about whether or not I actually achieved these goals and my goals for next year. I'll look forward to your comments in the comment section below. As always, thank you for watching.